Hey everybody, welcome to the Thursday afternoon AquaStax hour with me, Long Steve, at 3:03 p.m. on Thursday the 9th of March. As you can see, I've been doing a little bit of work on my hat. Now, not only can you chat in the chat group and have the hat do things like it was the other day, you can control the hat from the internet. You can visit aquastax.com as it is at the moment. The URL might change in the future when aquastax.com becomes the host for my game, but I might still have a link in there that says control the hat. And obviously it's only going to work while I'm streaming, but you can control the hat and you can toggle various functions and choose a color. And if you don't like those colors, you can choose even more colors, lots of them here. And we can do a rainbow or a white. Let's do a Cylon. Let's do a red Cylon. Let's check that's working. Oh yeah, there you go, red Cylon. And then you can clear it and you can change colors, but you can also do those things from the chat window as well. Like before, using the exclamation mark hat command. All right, let's leave that aside for now. I shall make a note in the chat window in case anybody joins the chat soon. Aquastax.com for more hat controls. Okay, let's start up SlickEdit. So on Tuesday evening, it was quite late on Tuesday evening, I think, I was attempting to work out clusters. That's clusters of blocks within the grid, right, to try and get myself into the talking mode as I'm doing things. Let's bring up Chrome. Oh, another thing I've done this week as well. So I was getting a little bit, not annoyed, but I wasn't using SlickEdit to its fullest potential by running my gulp task within the SlickEdit build window here, because SlickEdit's build window is really only designed for tasks which are short-lived. So I was just glancing over at my monitor window there for a second, making sure that OBS is streaming properly. So anyway, it's only meant for tasks that are short-lived, ones that you run to perform build operations on your product. Not ones that live for a long time, like my gulp watch task did, or in fact it still does. And also the JS hint command, although it would spew output in here as well, it wouldn't scroll to the bottom of the window, so I never really knew what was going on unless I focused on it. So what I've done is I've tweaked SlickEdit slightly, so now I don't have the gulp watch task within SlickEdit itself. I only have a JS hint task, and that JS hint task, I can run it, will just run JS hint over my files, and then it stops. And when it stops, because it does that, it allows SlickEdit some time to process the results. Oh, hi InVision, good to see you. I was just making a comment about how I've been using SlickEdit and my gulp task to build this project using JS hint. And I've changed that subtly now. What I'm doing is I'm now going to run JS hint within SlickEdit, and I'll do that automatically. But I'm not going to run the watch task, which sits there with live reload and stuff to rebuild the project. And the reason for doing that is because every time JS hint runs, SlickEdit can now process the error messages, and it actually puts little indicators where there are warnings and things, and I can double click. And also, it continually scrolls to the bottom. What I've done is I've hooked it into a macro, so every time I hit Control-S to save, it reruns the JS hint task. But what I also need to do now is make sure that I run my gulp watch in another window, and that's the thing that serves the project up and runs live reload so that I can load it up into Chrome. There we go. So here's the project running. Oh, while you're here, InVision, do check out aquastax.com, where I have now implemented, I mentioned this before you joined, I have implemented a web-based control for my hat and the lights on the hat. So you can click those and change the colors and do things with it. If multiple people do it at the same time, it won't queue things up or do things like override. It'll just do one until it's finished, and then the next one that somebody gets. Anyway, give that a try if you like. aquastax.com. I'm good, thanks very much. Thanks for asking. I hope you're well. I'm feeling a bit fresher today on a Thursday afternoon than I usually do on a Tuesday evening. So what I'm going to do is go back to basics a little bit on the code I wrote on Tuesday, which was kind of experimental, and I was just really thinking out loud. I should have probably written some pseudocode first, but I've never been one much for pseudocode and all that. I've just been like knocking code out and see what works. And this is supposed to try and work out groups of blocks that are the same color in my grid. So the blocks land, and what should happen is when blocks of the same color sit next to each other, they should merge into one block. So in order to do that, it needs to work out some sort of clusters of colors. And I was thinking about the code and trying to implement what turns out to be a flood fill. So what I'm going to do is ditch all this code that I wrote on Tuesday, which was pretty crappy, but it gave me some ideas, and I'm going to go back to basics and do a flood fill from scratch on the grid, and then build that up into the functions that I want, which will be working out where all the clusters of blocks of the same color are. So one thing I do love doing is getting rid of code, so I'm just going to ditch all of this and start from scratch again. If I hit save, yep, JS hint just gives me one warning, right. And it's going to be flood fill. And I made some notes on this beforehand, so I'm going to be glancing across my other monitor just to check my notes. And I hope you can hear me okay as well. I'm using my my lapel mic rather than my face mic, just to see if I avoid any electronic whine that seemed to occur when my hat lights come on with the mic that's very close to my face. Hopefully you won't hear any whine today. Anyway, so flood fill. If you're not familiar, flood fill is a pretty basic computer operation. And you generally use it in situations where you want to work out the containing shape of something, or a shape that contains something else, or you want to fill in pixels for a circle or for a surrounding area. So you do lots of iterations over a grid or a pixel area, or anything really, any data structure. So what I'm going to do is just use my grid, and to start with, we'll just flood fill as a basic operation and see what happens. And I'll probably put some indicators on the screen to show what's going on. The thing I did wrong the other day as well is, I've lost my code now, but let me just jump back into SmartGit and remind myself. Grid. So I got rid of a load of code, and it was down the bottom. There it is, right. So I had up, down, left, and right because my kind of flood fill algorithm. Why do I use SlickEdit IDE? I use SlickEdit because I have used SlickEdit for many, many years. It's just something I bought, or actually I had it bought, or I used it at IBM when I first graduated and worked there, and then I took it with me after buying a personal license, and I've used it ever since. There are probably better tools, Atom or Eclipse with the Java script development, things like that, but I've just got used to SlickEdit, so I kind of like it. It's not free, you have to pay for it. Sublime Text is probably a similar one that's a bit more modern. The other benefit of SlickEdit is it runs on all platforms. I can use it on Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. So I've got exactly the same environment on all platforms. It also integrates quite well with platform-specific projects. So I can load up Xcode projects and compile and run and test those. I can load up Visual Studio projects when I'm on a Windows PC, and it all works well. Anyway, what I was doing the other day in this bit of code that I've now got rid of is testing for these different directions. But I was doing it so that, oh, hi, Ramia Wadala, good to see you. I was testing the up, down, left, and right directions kind of independently of each other using else's. And of course, that wasn't going to work because you actually want to go in all directions or multiple directions at once from a particular cell. So if I want to flood fill out from one of these cells, you want to go in all four directions. Oh, Metafrogster as well. Hi, good to see you. Anyway, let's go back to the flood fill. So the first thing I want to do is define my directions to be something I can use without having to do them independently. So I want left equals, I'm going to use bit fields, which I like. So 1 shifted up by 0, right equals 1 shifted up by 1 bit, left, right, up equals 1 shifted up by 2 bits, and down 1 shifted up by 3 bits. That way I can pass in all 4 directions at once if I want to, or multiple directions into my function. And let's see, self, what do I want to do? I want to flood fill from the bottom left. So I'm going to actually, let's call this example flood fill, because I'm not going to, this isn't going to be my final code, it's just going to be the basis of how I work up to the final code. And we're going to have flood fill. I keep wanting to type flood full, but I don't, it's flood fill. And we're going to pass in the grid position and the direction, I think. Grid position and direction, yeah. And then this is our recursive function. So flood fill, this flood fill will call itself to loop over the grid. And we're going to, first of all, we're going to call it flood fill. We're going to start with grid position 0, and we're going to do basically all directions, which is 0 in this instance. So now we want to see what goes on in here. So here, I'm going to look at my notes. I can work out, so let's make a comment. So the direction, so the grid pos is index into self.gameGrid. Is it gameGrid? Yeah. For the current cell, and direction is, actually I'm going to call this direction from, because that's the direction that the caller is looking into when recursing into the flood fill direction, and that'll become clear in a moment. Direction is direction from the caller. And in order to recurse on a flood fill, we want to be able to do if the direction from and let's go right. So if we've not come from the right, I should just draw some diagrams of this, but it's just going to be in my head, I think. Hopefully you'll be able to understand it. So if the direction of right is 0, then we can go, so if we've not come from the right, we can go and go into the right. So if we've come from the top, the left, or the bottom, we can actually move out to the right into the next cell. So the next cell is going to be flood fill, and it's going to be, so in our grid, if we're moving one to the right, it's going to be grid pos +1, and the direction is the direction we're coming from. So in this instance, we're coming from the left. So inside this function call, when the stack drops down into here, we'll have come from the left. And then we can repeat this set of functions, or this very simple logic. If we've come, so if we haven't come from the left, we can go back to the left, and that's a -1. And that'll be actually coming from the right. And then there's, if we haven't come from above or up, then we can go up. And by doing that, we need to add in self dot, no, it's the number of tiles wide, blocks wide, self dot blocks wide. Self dot blocks wide. And the direction, if we're moving up into a function, or sorry, moving up from one cell to another, when we're running the flood fill function inside that cell, logically, the direction from is down. And then the next one, oh, hi, Jeremiah, hope I pronounced that correctly. Good to see you. The last one is down. If we haven't come from the down direction, so if we've come from any of the other ones, or if we've come from down, we can't go back there. That's the thing. That's the reason for this direction from checking the bits. If we want to go down, we can do minus blocks wide, but of course it's the up direction that we've come from. So that's basically the logic, and that should go through all the grid cells, but it's going to keep going forever because there's no sort of end conditions for any of these loops. And I've also just realized that I'm going to need some extra conditions to test whether or not you can go left or right at the edge. You can't go left or right at the edges of the grid. You can't go down from the bottom or up from the top. Let's add that in as well now. Let's do X and Y. So we've got the grid pos. So before I was looping over X and Y, and that got really confusing. I think because my data structure for the grid is a single dimensional array, I'm better off looping over, or just thinking about each index. And then to go right in the grid, you add 1, left -1, up or down, you add blocks wide, which I think is about 14. Right. Where was I going? But you still need to know the X and Y position of that index within the grid, which I have definitely done before. And there's a function up here somewhere that does it. Get grid position for index. That's almost the business. I'll just borrow that because I don't actually want pixel positions. I just want grid X and Y coordinates. And index is grid pos. Right. Let's just save that and see if JS hint gives me anything. X and Y defined but never used. That's good. Right. So if we're going to the right, let me run myself again. Direction from the right is 0. So if we've not come from the right, we can go back that way. But in order to do that, we have to have X has got to be less than self.blocks wide -1. Yes, because you want to be less than the last column. And then to go left, we want and X is greater than 0. And then up, if we're going into the up position, we want Y is less than self.blocks high. Is there a blocks high? Do I even define that? Yes, I do. Right. It is set. Good. And similarly down, and Y is greater than 0 because we can then go down. Okay. I could also check grid pos there, possibly, but actually no, it's definitely X and Y. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah, we need to know when to bail out and stop going up and down, left and right. Because I think if I run this now, it's going to go on forever. Let's just see what happens. Actually, let's. So what do I want to do? I want to call this function, and let's not bother with a new block for a minute. Let's do self.grid.example flood fill. Let's see what happens. I think. Anybody played with that yet at AquaStax.com? I haven't got any logging or checking yet, just to see if anyone does do it. And I can't. I'm not looking at my hat. I tell you what I need. I need a mirror on my cupboards just above the monitor. Then I'll be able to see. Otherwise, I need to look right over to the corner where my OBS window is sitting. Maximum stack size exceeded. Or you can chat as well. It lights up when you chat. Let's see if that. Did you see it then? Chat for hat. Yeah, there it goes. Good. Maximum core stack. Yeah, so we've got some kind of infinite recursion going on here because basically this doesn't know if it's gone through a grid cell already. And you can go up, down, left and right, and it'll keep going around in loops and basically go on forever. So what I need to do is I need to flag when the flood fill has hit a particular cell and then not go back into that again. So let's use a bit in the game grid. Let's add in fill flag scene. Yes, I do. And we do if self.gameGrid grid pos. We'll do this above here. And flag fill flag scene. Trouble with writing something at the top of a function, at the top of the source file, and then using it right back down the bottom. instantly forget what it was. And fill flag seen. So if that bit is set does not equal 0, then we've been through here already. Then we bail out. We can just return. If the fill routine has been through this grid cell already, bail out. And then afterwards we want to set that bit. Self.game grid setting or equals that. That will set the bit in that grid position in the game grid, and then carry on. So now it shouldn't infinitely recurse. Can't read get position of null. What's going on here? Block. This is where I commented out this. Actually, that's probably useful to make sure I fix that up. 318. Is that game.js? No, grid.js. 318. It's not been tested with no block yet, but I can just do if not block return. Right. Is that still crashing? Oh, another one of those game.js line 260. Self.block. This is, yeah, not self.block return. So if we haven't actually defined the block that's falling down. Okay, now it's not crashing. That's good. Let's just make sure it is actually doing something inside my flood fill. Where do I want to go? Down to the bottom of grid. I know what I can do. I can just dump out something on the console every time we get through to a block. So cc.log filling cell plus grid pos. So if I look at the console, there we go. So it's going through all our cells in a particular order. Great. Now I want to see that. So let's stick something on the grid. So when it gets to we've got X and Y. Let's do node draw node. Node.drawRect. cc.node draw node drawRect. Origin, destination, fill color line width. Right. Origin 0. Destination point. That's going to be what's my constant for block size? Half block size? I've got that there somewhere. Oh, aq.config.block size, that's what I want. Fill color line width, right. Fill color, cc.p, let's have it purple. Half transparency, line width of 2. Node.set position, and that's going to be x times block size. Oh, wow, the docs, did you generate those? No, well, I'm trying to. So I bought a tool called Dash, which is quite nice. If I hit F1, it'll bring it up. So Dash, let's just bring it up here, shall we? Dash docs. So I was having trouble, if you've watched a few of these streams before, I was having trouble sort of getting the documentation and searching through it using Cocos2d-JS Cocos2d-JS.org, the website. Not only did I have a few clicks to get to it, their search and then we're going for here, JavaScript. Their search function didn't really filter much, so I couldn't search for something like draw rect because it doesn't show me where it is. You have to know that it's in a draw node, and it does at least find it underneath node, and then you got to go to all this stuff. So I looked at Dash, which is documentation manager, and it has lots of documentation, and it's all offline. And with Dash, you can install. How do I get to it? Escape. Nope. One. Here we go. You can put in all your own documentation sets, and they all get downloaded to your Mac. And I think there's a similar tool for Windows called Velocity. If you have Velocity on Windows, it works very much like this. You can get the documentation. Where do I get the docs from? I want to do preferences. Ooh. Here we are. Don't want that. I want Dash preferences, doc sets, and there are loads of them all built into it, including the Cocos2d-JS ones. And you can choose the version numbers if you want them. And I ticked a whole bunch of other ones that I use regularly: jQuery and HTML and MongoDB. I use that, Nginx, all sorts of great documentation sets, including Macintosh and iOS and Windows APIs and so on. But there wasn't one for the Cocos2d-JS source. So what I did was I went into the source code that when you download. Let's go in. I'll use my other terminal. I have one called Cathode, which is kind of nice. Looks like an old retro terminal. If I move it around the screen, it wibbles about and things. Where did I want to go to? Projects, AquaStax. It's Cocos2d-JS. Here we go. And in here, it's quite deep down in there somewhere. It's web. Is it lib? Tools. There's some JS doc tools, and JS doc allows you to generate doc sets from JavaScript source. And with a bit of fiddling, I went and generated my own JS doc set from the Cocos2d-JS source code, and I put that into Dash. So now it kind of works. Oh, hi, Tibu Gurton, good to see you. If I hit F1, which is the kind of Dash global hotkey for help, it will search, but it's not the index that I managed to build didn't quite contain everything. If you look at if I open this up, it contains all the classes, but not individual functions. So where I've got it here, if I search for draw rect, it doesn't actually find it yet. But I can search for draw node, and then it'll find the function within it. But the index that it uses isn't quite up to speed. So I'm trying to get that a bit better. Once I've done that, I'll actually probably post on the Cocos2d-JS forums to say I've got a doc set. But it's at least much quicker to search than the online web tools. So I'd recommend that. I think there's a free trial of Dash, or it might be free until you get to a certain point of using it. But it's not expensive. Plus the generation isn't too bad. You know, you've got all the internal links and things like that. You can even go and look at the source code. It builds all that in. So that's all good. Thanks for asking. Good question. Oh yeah, that's the Velocity one. Is that what you're talking about for Windows? Yeah, I haven't used that under Windows, but when I do any more heavy Windows development, which I haven't done for a while, I'll probably look that up. Right, where was I? Documentation is always good. What I've been doing up till now is things like just relying on SlickEdit to kind of know where the source code is, but it doesn't always find it. So here I'm looking at draw rect, but it's not quite the same draw rect function. But now I can do a bit more detailed documentation. So I want to do X and Y position for this block, Y, and then I think that's it. Then just add it. Self.addChild node. So that should give us a pink square over every cell that the flood fill visits. Okay, it's all black, not pink, but Am I doing something wrong there? Ah, I know. I've called that cc.p, but it should be color. Let's try that. There they are. They're all pink. Right. So my flood fill has definitely gone and visited every cell. Now, what I want to do is stop it from doing that when I get to hi Alexi. I hope that's how you pronounce your name. Good to see you. Or Alexi. The point of the flood fill is to determine where the blocks are in the grid, or where all the filled in squares are. So let's go back and put a block falling down. Excellent. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. It's a nice sunny day today. I always much more enjoy these Thursday afternoon streams than the Tuesday evening ones, because I'm so tired on 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. The code I wrote is always shabby, and the first thing I did on my stream today was delete the whole lot, and I'm rewriting it, although I'm starting from scratch and looking at flood fills, because that's basically the algorithm that I want to use. So if I have my block, it should just fall down. Yes. So when it lands in the grid, the data gets, oh, something crashes. Do I have to do something else? Generate clusters. Ah, of course, I didn't get rid of that function. Generate, or that function call. Generate clusters. Where did that come from? Oh, it's grid.js 826. 826. Here we go, generate clusters. Right. Save. JS hint. See, my development workflow has subtly changed now that I've changed my JS hint, so it actually displays things properly in the window. I'm not ignoring it now, and it's kind of good. Anyway, so now we've got dropping block. Yes, and another blocks. So now let's adjust the flood fill so that fill, if the fill routine has been through the grid cell already, bail out. But we also want to bail out if the bail out if the game grid cell, or hi Jesse, good to see you. Game grid cell is occupied. OCCUPI. Hang on. Yeah, that'll do. Terrible at spelling. So if game grid, now my game grid has bits of data in it for the tiles, and they're in the bottom 8 bits. Oh, and Ethan Mono, good to see you. Lots of people joining today. Glad it's a bit more busy than it has been. Hopefully the hat is still responding if you join or chat. And also you can visit AquaStax.com if it's disappeared off the chat window already to control the hat. I might just do that now myself. Let's have a rainbow. Yeah, there it is. Getting distracted. Oh, cast as well. Good to see you. So it's and FF. So that will tell me if there's triangles or squares in that block. And then we just, of course I have to run the flood fill again. Let's see, example flood fill. So what I need to do is, if I'm going to run this every frame, I need, oh, hi Fadia. Let's see, if I want to run this every frame, I'm going to have to get rid of these nodes, aren't I? There's a tags, I could set tags and remove, or I know what I can do. I can stick a parent node in. So fill parent, and we'll set that up down here. And fill self.addChild fill parent, and then we just add all of these to the fill parent. Let's check that works. See, JS hint is helping me out already. Okay, they're all on there, good. Now I want to remove them, so I can do if self.fillParent, if it already exists, then self.fillParent.remove. Is there a remove all children? Yes, remove all children with cleanup. Remove all children, cleanup true. That's probably what I want. And then we want to rerun the flood fill every frame. Actually, not every frame. Let's do it every time a block lands. So let's not bother doing it there. Let's go into stick block. Yeah, there it is. Right. So when a block lands, bang, there's the flood fill. Ooh, and hopefully both those two blocks there aren't filled in. I do another one. You can only see behind. Oh, now it's all completely disappeared. Okay, that's not quite right. Let's see. If self.fillParent, fillParent remove all children. We don't. Creating a new node. If self.fillParent, else create the new node. Self.addChild fillParent. Actually, just do that in there. Right, that should now delete all the nodes and recreate it every time it blocks. No, not quite. Self.fillParent, we're adding all the nodes. Remove all children, true. Could be self.addChild fillParent. Let's debug this and see what's going on. So, first time through, when it lands, bang. Self.fillParent should be empty. Yep, so it creates a new one. Self.addChild, self.fillParent, then does a flood fill, which adds all of the nodes and draws them. And now the second time through, self.fillParent exists, so we go through remove all the children. Let's just check that that's doing something useful. Cleanup true, children.length, there are 306 of them, which is all my nodes, so that's basically going to loop over all of those and do node.cleanup on them, which I hope does something like get rid of everything. Remove listeners. Is it remove from parent? Detach from parent. Okay, right. Shift 11, come back out. And then what happens? So we should. I know what I'm doing. It's not going over all those blocks again because I've set the bits in the flood fill, haven't I? I just noticed that flag fill. I've got to clear the bits in the flood fill. Right. So let's see. Clear the flood fill bits in the game grid. If self.fillParent, okay, remove all the pink blocks. I might as well just use a quick for loop for var I equals 0. I is less than self.gameGrid.length I++. Self.gameGrid I. Then we want to clear those bits. So we want to do and equals not of the flag seam bit. What that'll do is it'll make sure that bit is set back to 0 in the byte. Okay. So now Oh, I missed somebody else arrive and disappear there. So engrossed in the code. So now it should flash on and off. Ah, well, it didn't actually flash, it was so fast, but it's definitely flood filling again because it's now removing those blocks. Let's make my block disappear when it lands. I think I even had that bit of code in last week, yeah, or on Tuesday evening. Self.block, just remove it from the parent. So what should happen now is, as the block lands, the flood fill should rerun, but it leaves those two cells empty because that's where the block landed. Excellent. All right. Oh, hi, Omila. Good to see you. Right, so it's not recognizing the triangles yet, but that's okay. It's going to slide off. What I could do is invert the flood fill so it only finds the blocks that are filled. So at the moment, it's bailing out when it finds a fill block, but I could bail out when it's empty instead. Bail out if the game grid cell is occupied. Bail out if the game grid cell is empty. Equals 0. So that will just dink. Oh, it didn't work. Bail out if it's empty. Ah, but it has to won't set the flag scene if it's empty. Right, bail out if the cell is empty. I could put that there, couldn't I? Nope. What am I missing? So if there are no blocks in the cell, it's been through the fill routine already, bail out. If that's 0, it should return. Otherwise, if it's not 0, it should carry on down here. Let's see if it gets to that point in the code. I thought that would be straightforward, to just invert the logic of the flood fill. Do we even get down here? Yes. Self.gameGrid, grid pause, and equals 0, it bails out. So we should. Okay. It's never getting. Oh, just drop the block. Why is it never getting to there? Self.gameGrid. So there should be a few. And ff is equal to 0. Yeah, there are plenty of zeros. There's plenty of ones that aren't 0. There's one, for example, that's there. So why is it never getting below that point in the code? What am I missing? I don't suppose I'm not getting stung by JavaScript equals in some way. Nope. Let's go back to not equal 0. Yeah, so that's filling in everything except those blocks. Whereas I would expect, invert my test here, Bail out the game grid is empty. Bail out if the game grid cell is not empty. So that means it doesn't fill in any of the cells that have a block in them, which is, you see that it's being built up around here. Or equals fill flag seen. Bail out, routine has already been through, that's separate. I'm very confused as to why that's not working. I'll leave it for now. Aren't you setting to be seen right before the check? Yeah, but the point of the AND is I'm only testing the bottom 8 bits of the game grid pos, because they're the bits that store the tile or the triangle information, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 on my triangles. So if those bottom 8 bits are non-zero, then there should be something in that cell. And if they are 0, then there's nothing in the cell. Let's just do that again. I'm going mad. What if I test on something else? Let's test on the top 16 bits, see what happens there. Because when a block lands in the grid, it's still the same thing. There's definitely something wrong with that bit of logic. No idea why. I'll leave it for now. It'll bug me though. There we go, right. What's I going to do next? What are we? Oh, that's 50 minutes. So the point of doing all this flood fill code is to start working out. You can highlight it in Chrome Debugger and see the value. Oh yeah, good point. I'm not going to worry too much about that. I could stare at the same bug for ages. So if I definitely get past that point in the code normally, self.gamegrid gridpos. Can I do a console thing? Copy. Yeah, 1024. Oh, interesting. That's 0. Why is it 0 when it's 1024? What's 1024? That's the one. That's the bit. Yeah, that's just one of the cells that's had the bit set in it already. What I wanted, I'm not going to worry about that for now. What I was going to do was think about exactly how to use the flood fill, because what it needs to do is work out all the blocks in the grid that are the same color. So if I come back in here and just leave my blocks in there for a minute. So I should start taking into account the color of the blocks and the triangular details as well. But I'm probably not going to get to that today, but I'll see if I can think a bit about it so I can get myself prepared for Tuesday. Maybe we can write some comments. So I'm getting distracted. Got lots of Dropbox files being changed by somebody. I'll just quit Dropbox on my PC. I always quit it on my Mac before I start streaming, but it's still running on my PC. Right, bail out the game if the cell is not empty. So this will fill in highlight the cell if it's empty. Yeah, I mean that bit, that 1024 bit, is that, isn't it? It's the fill flag scene. But I'm not checking for those. I wanted to only care about the bottom 8 bits of the block pos. The game grid. Probably should be coming. Yeah. No, it's useful to chat. I'm not sure what's going on at the moment, and all these bit flags are probably not that commonly used in JavaScript or today, unless you're writing low-level code, graphics drivers, that kind of thing. We used to use them a lot back when I first wrote this game in order to save space and memory and pack things together into integers. That's why I do this quite a bit. I just had a thought. Oh no, I am doing a single and there. It's not a, don't need a double ampersand. Yeah, anding with zeros. So that's effectively that, isn't it? So all those top bits are going to end up being zeroed out, and just the bottom 8 bits are left in. And if they're non-zero, then it bails out, which works because it bails out in this instance whenever there's a non-zero block, which is where one's landed. So it bails out and doesn't flood fill those. Oh, just had a thought. If it's bailing out, I think I might know what's going on. If it bails out, it's never going to continue filling potentially the logic it has to do from that cell onwards. So I can't just flip the inclusion and exclusion bits. What I need to do is make sure that it's, rather than bailing out, it just doesn't draw the, because this particular test, I'm surprised this works. Okay, this is actually probably good. I'm going to get what are you commenting on there? So when you get start out, you never get past there, so the grid blocks never get set. Check is always true. Yeah, I think so. Let's see, what do I want to do? I want the fill. I'm trying to combine 2 bits of logic. The fill logic needs to always happen. And then the difference is whether or not I want to flag cells to be visible or not visible. I can't just bail out at the top here to flip the logic over. What I need to do is let's make a list of cells. So let's do filled cells, and this might be useful actually because it kind of will allow me to decouple the recursive logic where it's calling itself from rendering it, because at the moment I'm doing this node down in here and that's going to be a bit risky. What I'm going to do is fill cells, and that's going to be an array, so we'll make it blank here. Fill the self dot fill. How much time have we got? I've got a little bit of time to go. I don't mind going over the hour today because it's quite fun to do that. Self dot fill cells, so make that blank, and then every time through the logic I'm going to stick filled cells, basically just do self.filled cells dot push. I might as well just stick the grid pos on it. So let's do example flood fill. Render fill cells. And here we want to loop over all the filled cells. So let's just do slick it thinks it knows what my formatting is. There we go. Why is it indenting it out there? I'll fix that in a second. If self.filled cells, actually we should just be able to loop over it. want to get X and Y. Ooh, hi, AndrevDB or AndreVDB. Good to see you. Grid paths equals self.filled cells I. Grid paths. So that's sticking the node. Highlight. Oh, I need self equals this. Must have got a. Slick Edit gets its formatting a bit wrong, or it's indenting when I've got a syntax error somewhere in the code, because it can't recognize it properly. I wonder if there's something wrong. No, JS hint's okay. Anyway, where was I? So what I want to do is we push. So it's not return. It's highlight the cell if it's appropriate, right? So we push it onto there. Self.filled cells equal push grid pause. So we're going to run example flood fill. That will push all the cells we need to fill onto an array and then render them. I have to call render filled cells somewhere. Let's see. I might as well just do it after flood fill. Yeah, let's do it here. So can't we push up undefined? Self.fill cells.push. Did I not create it? Ah, it's filled cells. Fill cells. Render filled cells. Yeah. Gosh, fill and filled. That's a difficult one to keep correct. Fill cells. Oh, hi, German or German. Fill, and it's fill cells. Fill cells. Yes, right. Okay. Right. Ooh, my down key gets, so that's still working. Okay, it's rendering the cells that are bailout. Sorry, it's not bailout anymore, is it? It's let's do that. Set the cell to render if it's empty. Whereas if it's not empty, let's just put that back to FF because I know my code was okay. It's not empty if it's not empty. Rather than bail out, we're still got to now we're still going to go and do the rest of the flood fill logic. So it should just put pink blobs behind everything that's filled. Yes, that's better. And now I can go back and fix up my block removal. So this is a bit more like what I actually want to use the logic for, is working out, there we go. So now we're getting something independent of the blocks, but it's just working out areas of filled cells. So then I can start thinking about clustering them together with colors. Right, so basically it's just going to be using this logic, but putting additional things in here to store those cells somewhere to render them, or clusters of groups, but also checking things like the colors and so on. And that's probably a good time to call it a day. But I wonder if I can, I'm just curious about, now I've got the list of filled cells in something separate to the recursive function calls of my flood fill. I can draw them incrementally. So rather than just go blam, I just want to see how it's doing it. So if I do render filled cells, let's do fill index 0. So let's set fill index to 0 here. Self.fill index 0. Let's do if self.fill index is greater than or equal to self.filled cells.length, don't do anything. Otherwise, we want to grid pos equals self.fill cells, self.fill index plus plus. So we're just going to render one at a time. So render filled cells, okay, one at a time. I don't want to do it down here. I want to do it in my update loop. Somewhere in update. Where's update? Ah, it's not much in update. Self.grid.render build cells. Right, this is a bit of a gamble, but oh, hi, person, good to see you. Let's see, control S. Did JS hint whinge about that? Oh no, it's okay. So with any luck, we'll get one. Ah, no, we won't. Length of null. Grid.js self.fill index. Fill cells. Oh, okay. We just have to make sure that that's set. We'll bail out if it's not set. So if self.not self.fill cells or index is greater than the length, bail out. Otherwise, there it goes. Excellent. That gives me a bit of an idea of how the flood fill is going. It's going up. That's probably to do with this, isn't it? It's going to the right. So it's kind of the order in which these functions happen. So it'll keep going to the right until it gets to blocks wide. Then it can't go left, so it'll go up. And then that logic will come down here. That can't go right, it'll go left. Yes, so it'll keep doing that. If I swap these around, I might be able to get it to do something different. Let's go up first. Up and right, left and down. See what happens there. Drop a block. Yes, it goes up. It goes up and right, and then it fills it in like that. Excellent. Why does it do that? So it goes up. Oh yeah, when it can't go up anymore, it goes right. But when it goes right and it can't go right anymore, it goes left. It can't go up right or left anymore, it goes down. And then it'll basically loop around these right, left, and down. Yeah. Okay. That's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not particularly representative of the algorithm, drawing in all those cells that you don't want, because it kind of makes you think it takes a really long time, but actually all of the working out occurs in that one frame. It's just the rendering that's happening one frame at a time. So 60 blocks a second effectively. How many is it doing? 300. So yeah, it's taking about 5 seconds to render the whole thing. I could speed that up a bit if I wanted to loop over that, but I won't worry about that. Let's just change this one back to not equal. And that will hopefully now be a lot quicker because it's only rendering the cells that get filled in. Bink. Yeah, you can barely even notice the fact that it's doing it one frame or one cell per frame. Yeah, it's getting to. That's quite a nice effect, that actually. I might have to use that at some point in the future when I want to fill blocks in or do something with them. Yeah. Excellent. Right, I think I'm going to leave that as it is. Let's put my blocks back in so I can at least see them. And next time, which is going to be next Tuesday evening, I'll write a whole load of code that I can throw away again. Or I can basically just make it all work a bit more nicely with the colors. I think that's what I want to do. I want to, well, it's either the colors or the triangles. This is where it will get more interesting because effectively each of my cells is split into two. And the two triangles that can fit into any one grid cell can potentially be part of different colors or different blocks. So I think that I was trying to do too much in one go last Tuesday. I was trying to take into account all of that and write the logic from scratch, and it just wasn't working. So I'm much more happy that I've gone through the flood fill from the first principles again and worked it out. I think that's quite interesting. I don't need to put any more comments on there just yet. I might actually just comment this. So logic is if the cell is entered from, if the cell is not entered from above, ABAB, up, then we can recurse in the up direction, passing down as the direction from. I might think about this. Well, this might be a bit confusing. Direction from, it could easily be, it could just as easily be direction to, and then a bunch of these could be flipped around. So I could flip it from not equal. So if I pass the direction that the flood fill is going to, let's see, we're coming in from the right. I wonder if I might try that now just to see if it makes the code easier to read. Direction is the direction the caller is moving to get into this cell. It's kind of weird. The logic is sort of spatial. I'm trying to write code that kind of mirrors it, as in going up, down, left, and right, one cell at a time. So if we've got direction is effectively going to, that changes this bit of code from if we're going up, do I want not equals to 0? If we're going up, then yeah, see, no, it makes it more difficult because effectively, if we're going in the up direction, that means we can go left, right, and down. But I don't want to check 3 things. That makes the logic much more difficult. I think the come from, and checking that we've not come from a direction, meaning that we can then go off in that direction, actually works better. So I'm going to leave it as it was. Is moving from, but I'll leave these comments in just so I can understand. So if the cell is not entered from above, then we can recurse in the up direction, passing down as the direction from, and grid pos plus self.blocks wide to get 1 row above. To get the grid index for 1 row above. Yeah. It's quite a big comment for just one if statement. I'm not going to repeat that. I'm just going to write etc. I'm sure in the future I'll wonder what the hell I was doing there. But anyway, that's a good point to stop. Still works. Great. Let's commit that now. Game and grid. Oh, and let's go and tweak my refactor.txt file. We're on 9th of March. Stack clustering, grouping, implement cluster code. Yep, ongoing. build, excuse me, build upon the flood fill routine to iterate over blocks of the same color, taking into account the triangle points. Right, so that's the thing to do. Yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. Now we can commit. Great. You can use this for clustering the good cells together. Commit, and I made a commit earlier just locally while I was tweaking my my gulp script, but I don't need to go into that. That was just my change of workflow. Push. There we go. I think that's gone. Difficult to spot. It's just hiding behind my chat window. Anyway, that's good. Right. One more promotion of the hat. Obviously, AquaStax.com isn't going to do anything when I'm not streaming because I'll turn the hat off. Let's have a rainbow. Yep, rainbows are going. That, excellent. And the great thing about this is my hat is entirely wireless as well. I can plug it into a battery charger, like one of those smartphone battery chargers, runs off USB, and walk around and control it from my phone anywhere in the world because it hooks up to the wireless network access point for my phone if I need it to. And I can now use this control panel. It also tells me when it goes offline and online as well. Actually, it doesn't tell me when it goes offline, but if it goes offline and you try and do a function, if I unplug it now, let's do that, shall we? It will throw an error. So I've just pulled the power lead out. If I try doing something now, it will fail, hopefully. I've got the log from the server here. It uses WebSockets, and there's probably about a 30-second timeout, I think, when it'll fail. And let's go in here. It uses a little controller from a company called Particle, which is quite nice. Internet of Things type platform, little tiny chip. Oh, there's the error. It went wrong. Yeah, something went wrong calling the hat function. But if I plug it back in, it will send an event saying I've just been started up again, and the web page will know, and you can carry on using it. But I'll leave it unplugged now because that's time to the end of the stream, I think. Next one will be Tuesday evening at 8 PM UK time, whereupon I shall be very tired and write some crappy code. And then next Thursday at 3 PM, I'll patch it all up and make good code again. That seems to be how things are going. Thanks very much for watching. Do follow me on LiveCoding.tv, or sorry, LiveEdu.tv. I should keep changing the my use of the old term. Also, is Tim still working? My chatbot? Yep. And I'm going to give myself a rating of at least 80% today because I think I've written some nice code. And I hope you all enjoy watching, and I will see you again soon. Thank you very much indeed. I'm going to switch back to my splash screen, which I haven't actually updated yet. It still says livecoding.tv. Apologies for that. I shall fix it straight after this stream, so the next one will have liveedu.tv, not livecoding.tv.